Hello everyone. Welcome to the sixth session of presentation in English. Archana is here. In today's session, we are going to deal with the part 2 of Two Deer, that is the remaining part of the story Two Deer, written by Leo Tolstoy. Two Deer is a story written by Leo Tolstoy, a famous Russian writer. The story explores the themes of governance, justice, power, and capital punishment in the kingdom Monaco. The story begins in this way. Near the borders of France and Italy, on the shore of the Mediterranean Sea, lies a tiny little kingdom called Monaco. It is a tiny little kingdom, a toy kingdom. The population of the kingdom is only about 7,000, and the court of Monaco had, even though it is a toy kingdom, there is a real kinglet. He has a palace, courtiers, ministers, and bishops and generals, and an army which consists of 60 men. So it is not a large army, only 60 men in all, but still it is an army. The commodities taxed in Monaco were tobacco, wine, spirits, and poll tax. Due to insufficient funds, they also introduced a new gaming tax, that is, the source of the king's special revenue came from gambling called roulette. The Germans stopped gaming houses because many people lost all their money, also took loans to gamble again to lose it. After risking all they had, they would drown or shoot themselves in despair. The Prince of Monaco profited because his was the only gambling house in the whole of Europe where all would come to gamble. All is well in the kingdom of Monaco until a man commits a murder. The king had never had to deal with the murder until the man was sentenced to death. That is, the prisoner was sentenced to death by cutting off his head. He runs into considerable troubling trying to carry out the sentence. Monaco had neither guillotine nor an executioner. So they requested the government of France. France agreed to send the requirements for the sum of 16,000 francs. This would require imposing more tax on people. So the king requested for help from the king of Italy. Now, let us see whether the king of Italy would agree to provide the requirements or not. So now, what happened? The Italian government wrote that they would have pleasure in supplying both a machine and an expert. Now, the Italian government they agreed. They're very happy. They replied to the letter by telling that they are very pleased to supply both machine and an expert, guillotine and an expert, and whole cost would be 12,000 francs, and the cost of guillotine and an expert would be 12,000 francs, including traveling expenses. Yes, when compared to France requirements, that is 16,000 francs, this is obviously work out in a cheaper way, but still it seemed too much for the king, and he thought that it is really not worth to spend even 12,000 francs to that useless fellow. Who is that? That is the murderer. It would still be nearly 2 francs more per head on the taxes. If we want to give 12,000 francs, then also we have to increase the tax. So it will not work out. So another council was called. They discussed and considered how it could be done with less expense. So council of ministers they came together, they discussed, and one by one started suggesting one or the other solution. But finally they thought that why can't we take the help of our own soldiers? Could not one of the soldiers, perhaps, why can't we take the help of our own soldiers? So the general was called and was asked, can't you find us a soldier who would cut the man's head off? In war, they don't mind killing people. In fact, that is what they are trained for. So the general talked it over with the soldiers to see whether one of them would not undertake that job. So, but none of the soldiers would do it. No, they said, we don't know how to do it. It is not a thing we have been taught. Soldiers did not agree finally by telling that they are not trained. Now, what to do? What has to be done? Again, the ministers considered and reconsidered. They assembled a commission and a committee and a subcommittee, and at last they decided that the best thing would be to alter the death sentence to one of imprisonment for life. This would enable the prince to show his mercy and it would come cheaper. So finally, the committee members came together and discussed and decided that they will alter, they will change the punishment. What is the change in punishment? The death sentence to one of imprisonment for life. Instead of killing him, instead of cutting his head off, they thought that okay, we will imprison him till his death. So that it is called to one of imprisonment for life. This would enable the prince to show his mercy. So it will be benefited in both the ways. So that no need to pay money and buy the guillotine and the expert, and even it will also be helpful for the prince. So the people or the citizen will praise the king that he has shown mercy. The prince agreed to this, and so the matter was arranged. The only hitch again they had a problem. Now was that there was no suitable prison for a man. There was no suitable prison for a man sentenced for life. There was a small lockup where people were sometimes kept temporarily, but there was no strong prison fit for permanent use. However, they managed to find a place that would do, and they put the young fellow there and placed a guard over him. The guard had to watch the criminal and had also to fetch his food from the palace kitchen. Punishment has changed from death sentence to lifetime imprisonment, and he has put into the jail. A guard has kept to look after him. The food he will receive from the palace kitchen. See what a royal treatment for a murderer. The prisoner remained there month after month till a year had passed. But when a year had passed, the kinglet, looking over the account of his income and expenditure, one day noticed a new item of expenditure. This was for the keep of the criminal, nor was it a small item either. There was a special guard, and there was also the man's food. It came to more than 600 francs a year, and the worst of it was that the fellow was still young and healthy and might live for 50 years. When one came to recall it up, the matter was serious. It would never do. So the prince summoned his minister and said to them, you must find some cheaper way of dealing with this rascal. The present plan is too expensive. After 1 year, what happened? The king noticed that life imprisonment cost came up to more than 600 francs, which was heavy. So, what was the cost of? There is special guard, food, maintenance of the prison, and even the maintenance of the guard. Everything came around 600 francs. That is increase in the expenditure. So the king called the ministers and ordered them to find some other way, that is cheaper way, to deal with this murderer. And the ministers met and considered and reconsidered till one of them said, gentlemen, in my opinion, we must dismiss the guard. But then, rejoined another minister, the fellow will run away. Well, said the first speaker, let him run away. and be hanged to him. So, what happened here? When the ministers were discussing the ministers, he expressed his opinion by telling that, okay, let us dismiss the guard. Then the other minister, he interrupted by telling that if we dismiss the guard, the fellow will run away. The fellow means here the murderer. The murderer will run away. Then the minister told that, the suggested minister told that, okay, well and good, that is what we wanted. Let him run away. That is what we wanted, let him run away. And so finally they came together and reported the result of their deliberations to the kinglet. And the king agreed with them. The guard was dismissed and they wanted to see what would happen. All that happened was that at dinner time the criminal came out and not finding his guard, he went to the prince's kitchen, that is palace kitchen, to fetch his own dinner. He took what was given him, returned to the prison, shut the door on himself, and stayed inside the prison. See what a disciplined and well mannered prisoner, right? So, next, what happened? Next day, the same thing occurred. What is the same thing? He went to the prince's kitchen to fetch his own food, took what was given to him, returned to the prison, shut the door on himself, and stayed inside. He went for his food at the proper time. But as for running away, he did not show the least sign of it. He did not even try to run away from the prison. What was to be done? They considered the matter again. We shall have to tell him straight out. So they finally decided, okay, let us go and tell him directly that you run away from the prison, that we do not want to keep him. So the Minister of Justice had him brought before him. Why do you not run away? Said the minister. There is no guard to keep you. You can go where you like, and the prince will not mind. So what happened here? The ministers, they decided to call him and directly straight away tell him what actually they wanted. So the minister of justice called in front of all the ministers and he told him to run away from the prison. There is no guard to take care of you so that you can go away wherever you want. Prince will not mind. So what happened here? Will he run away? Or will he go back to the prison as a disciplined and well mannered prisoner? Let us see. I dare say the prince would not mind, replied the man. So the prisoner told that, I believe that the prince will not mind me telling this. But I have nowhere to go. What can I do? You have ruined my character by your sentence, and people will turn their backs on me. Besides, I have got out of the way of working. You have treated me badly. It is not fair. In the first place, when once you sentenced me to death, you ought to have executed me. But you did not do it. That is one thing. I did not complain about that. Then you sentenced me to imprisonment for life and put a guard to bring me my food. But after a time, you took him away again, and I had to fetch my own food. Again, I did not complain, but now you actually want me to go away? I can't agree to that. You may do as you like, but I won't go away. The criminal was reluctant to go out of prison for two reasons. One, because he was timely fed by the royal kitchen, and second, he had no other place to go, as nobody would offer him a job as he was a murderer. Therefore, he decided to stay in the prison instead of running away. What was to be done? Once more, the council was summoned. What course could they adopt? The man would not go. They reflected and considered. The only way to get rid of him was to offer him a pension. And so they reported to the prince. There is nothing else for it, said they. We must get rid of him somehow. The sum fixed was 600 francs, and this was announced to the prisoner. Well, said he, I don't mind so long as you undertake to pay it regularly. On that condition, I am willing to go. So, what happened? Now, when they asked directly the prisoner Why can't you run away, even though we had given you a chance to run away? The prisoner, he told that it's impossible for me to run away. Why? Because I'm not able to lead my life outside the prison. Because already you have ruined my reputation. So nobody will give me the job because I am a murderer. Therefore, I decided to stay back in the prison. Then the Council of Ministers came up with a solution. What is that solution? That is to get rid of him by paying a pension, by offering him a pension. And the ministers reported this to the prince. Prince, he did not have any other way to go. He has to agree to get rid of the prisoner. Even the prince agreed to this. The sum fixed, the amount was fixed. What is that? 600 francs. And this was announced to the prisoner. Even the prisoner agreed to this. Why? Why did he agree? On what condition? On that condition. What is that condition? On one condition, I don't mind to go away from the prison so long as you undertake to pay it regularly. So that you have to pay without fail. You have to pay it regularly. With that condition, I'm willing to go out. So the matter was settled. He received one third of his annuity in advance. One third of his annuity means how much? One third, that is 200 francs. One third of his annuity. He received it. It was only a quarter of an hour by rail, and he emigrated and settled just across the frontier. So the sum was fixed, that was 600 francs, and this was announced to the prisoner. The prisoner is very happy. He agreed for one condition, that so long as you undertake to pay, it means that till you pay it regularly, definitely I will not come inside the prison. So the matter was settled, everything went on well. He left the prison and he emigrated and settled just across the frontier, where he bought a bit of land, started market gardening, and now lives comfortably. He always goes at the proper time to draw his pension. Having received it, he goes to the gaming tables, stakes 2 or 3 francs, sometimes wins and sometimes loses, and then returns home. He lives peacefully and well. It is a good thing that he did not commit his crime in a country where they do not grudge expense to cut a man's head off or to keep him in prison for life, right? Finally, on one condition, the criminal agreed to leave the prison, and the king undertakes to pay his pension regularly and receive one third of his annuity as advance from the prince. So that it was agreed that the criminal would leave Monaco and its domain forever, and for doing this, he would be paid 600 francs annually. This somehow appeared the criminal, and he readily agreed to do so. It was only a quarter of an hour by rail, and he emigrated and settled just across the frontier, where he bought a bit of land, started market gardening, and lived comfortably. He always went at the proper time and draw his pension. Having received his pension, directly he used to go to the gaming table. He used to spend 2 or 3 francs, and sometimes he used to win and sometimes used to lose, and he started leading his life comfortably and peacefully. So here we have winded up the chapter. So let us conclude. Initially, in the second part of the story in today's session, there was only one hitch in the matter, and that was they had neither a guillotine for cutting heads off nor an executioner. So, what happened? They had to rely on their neighboring country, France, but this cost them 16,000 francs, which was a very heavy sum. The prince later inquired it with Italy. Italy offered it for a lesser sum of 12,000 francs, and even this was too much burden. The decision was revoked, that is revised, and the murderer was imprisoned for life. Life imprisonment, however, presented its own set of problems. That is, their need to be a guard at all times, and the man had to be fed. So that the cost per year was 600 francs, which would still an increase of taxes. It was decided that the guard should be dismissed, even at the risk of losing the prisoner. But the prisoner, however, does not try to escape, and when it was inquired, the criminal responds that he has nowhere to go in Monaco and that his reputation was ruined. King finally decides to pay 600 francs to the murderer as an annual pension by the government to remain in exile. So here Leo Tolstoy's angle was humanitarian, where he reflects on the well-being of mankind. He presents this story in a most humorous way and concludes that king who was less concerned with his responsibilities and was earning profit from evil sources also tries to save the expenses from death sentences to life imprisonment, but it turns to be too expensive for the kinglet. So the title too dear means very expensive is apt, and the funny side is if the criminal was found guilty, then he must be convicted. But this particular criminal was treated in an innovative fashion where he was pensioned, that is a regular income by the government. It not only sets him free but also pensions him. Dear students, here I have enclosed 1 mark questions and 4 mark questions. I want each and everyone to write the answers to all these questions which I have enclosed here in the video, and you have to write the answers to all the questions in a notebook and you have to submit it when you return. Thank you.